Hey guys, and welcome to another vlog. Sometimes I'm a little bit hesitant to pick up my camera because I don't want all of these vlogs to look the same, but I do have a very busy weekend coming up. Because of COVID, I haven't been gigging very much, but this weekend I actually have 3 gigs. Somehow they've all rejigged and ended up falling on the same days. So I'm playing at the Matakana Market on Saturday, which, if you've been watching my vlogs for a while, used to be a regular gig spot for me. And then on Sunday I'm playing at 2 places. First of all at the Matakana Market, and then in the afternoon/evening I'm playing at my local bar, the Clyde, which after the first lockdown I was playing at quite regularly. So it'll be a big weekend, but it'll be good to get back to actually playing live as well. This week has just flown by. It's currently Thursday and I've spent the morning actually researching into how to promote music and sending out emails and things because I'm coming out with a new single. I haven't actually put the release date out there yet, but if you want to keep an eye on that, then maybe follow my social media. If you follow me on Instagram, I'll leave it here, then that'll probably be the place where I'll keep you most up to date. But yeah, I've been kind of sitting on the laptop this morning and I do want to actually get all of my gear ready for all the gigging this weekend. So I'll show you how I kind of prepare and make sure I've got all my equipment and backups and everything. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a full-on day. This week is just, like I said, flying by. I was busy on Tuesday putting together my latest video. So if you want to check out that video, I'll link it up in the top. I don't know which side it's on, but I'll link it up in the top. It took me a long time to put together, but it was pretty requested, so I wanted to make it for you guys. And I always want to make the videos that you want to see. So if there's something that you've been wanting to see from me for a long time, make sure you comment it down below. But I know not everyone who watches my music videos actually watch these vlogs, but if you do, it means a lot, so thank you. Hey guys, so today it's Friday and that means that this weekend is almost about to begin and it's going to be very busy because I have 3 gigs in the space of 2 days. So tomorrow is one, which is the Matakana Farmers Market from 9 AM to 1 PM, and then on Sunday I have the Matakana Market for 2 hours in the morning and then the Clyde bar in Browns Bay for 4 hours in the afternoon. So I am about to get all of my gear all set up and ready. But my first job, while I finish my coffee, because I just had my breakfast, is to go through my set list on my iPad and put together actual set lists for each venue. I don't always do this, but I like to kind of group my songs depending on what kind of vibe I'm playing in, so that I can actually just click on that set list and then I know which songs I have to choose from. I normally don't put my songs in a specific order unless I'm doing like a tailored show. So normally if I'm just doing a regular covers gig, I'll just have all the songs in front of me, and then depending on what the vibe is like, how many people are there, what songs people are enjoying, that will determine what song I'll play next, and I'll just be able to pick from the huge selection that I've built up. I think I have about 400 songs on this iPad that I can play, and obviously some of them are more like unique or arranged than others. Some of them I've just kind of learned very simple versions, but I've found that as you play covers more and more, they become more unique and more your own. So it's more about the repetition and yeah, finding a sound that works for you. So yeah, this is what my set list looks like, if it'll focus on it. So as you can see on the side there are different set lists, and then on the other side there are songs, and you can click on them and see the chords like this. And it's super handy to have at gigs because a lot of the songs I know off the top of my head and I just remember them, but it's nice to have the cue in front of you so that if you somehow forget or just want a prompt, then it's there. And it's also good for if you're playing with other musicians too, because they can just look at it and kind of pick it up as they go along. So yeah, like I said, I'm going to go through now and make set lists for the gigs that I have this weekend, because it's been quite a while since I've played these gigs, especially the market ones, and I've added a lot of songs since I last played them, so it'll be nice to put them all together in one. I've actually been meaning to film this segment of the vlog for a while and have kind of been putting it off and kind of been too busy, so I thought I'd put it here. But this is where I'm going to go through all of the gear that I take to my gigs with me, and obviously it depends on what kind of gig you're playing, but these are kind of the standard things that I take, and I hope this helps you if you're wanting to play live gigs, or if you're just curious on what you can add or even leave out. I would be curious to see if you guys think I need anything else down below, so definitely comment if I'm missing something. But it's a complete mess because I had 2 gigs over the weekend, so I'm gonna kind of tidy it up as I go through it and show you what's in this crazy box. So first of all, this is super standard, but it really annoys me when I forget it, is a snap lock bag. And this is for if you're going to play a gig where you're also busking, because you're going to get given money and you need to put it somewhere, and it probably won't fit in your wallet or your handbag, so it's good to bring one of these. Also because money is dirty, so you want to put it somewhere and make sure that you're washing your hands after you put it in there. But yeah, super handy and really annoying if you forget it. The next item is a very loud one, and so you can always hear me coming, but it's a foot tambourine. I actually only added this to my equipment / gear last year. It makes a pretty big difference though when you're playing, because it just adds that little foot tapping feel to a song. And yes, you can definitely overuse them, but I find that they get people's attention, they get people kind of dancing along, so this one's a really good one, especially for kind of those more dancey, family-friendly kind of gigs. Next up is my guitar strap. I got this when I got my guitar. It's just a Taylor guitar strap, and I actually think I have a spare one in the bottom of this box. I guess we'll see when we get to the bottom. But yeah, you definitely don't want to forget a guitar strap when you're playing. Then this is actually a recent addition as well. I actually bought this little tote bag thing from Kmart because I'm trying to use more reusable bags and buy things that are gonna last longer rather than one-time plastic things. But this has a reusable mask that I wash, some sunglasses for if I'm playing outside or the sun is shining in my face, and some body spray or perfume. And now this might seem like a bit of a weird one, but if you're playing in the sunshine or just if you're playing in a hot room, you can kind of smell after a while of playing. So it's good to have that in case you need to top up. So now we're getting into all the cables. So the first one that I have is a multi-box. You can actually buy extension cables that have multi-boxes on them, but this is just one that I had lying around the house. And these are obviously super handy because sometimes you don't have access to lots of power points and you might need to charge something. Something might run out of batteries, and I actually did used to have rechargeable batteries, but I left them in the UK. But these are just always really handy to have. And that brings me on to the next thing, which is an extension cable. I don't know how long this one is, but it does actually pay to have a long cable, because sometimes you just don't have access to power, or you might go to, say, a restaurant or a bar that you're playing at, and they tell you that the power point's all the way at the other end of the bar, which has happened to me. So it's important to have a long extension cable, maybe even have 2. Obviously it depends on how many musicians you're playing with, but cables are always useful. Next up I have my mic. It came with this case. I actually got this mic secondhand. I did buy an SM58 when I was in the UK, and that's still there. And it's really good that this mic comes with a case / box, because it means that when I'm carrying it around with all the rest of my gear, it's not going to get squashed or anything like that. Also, another thing that's really important to remember, and I've never forgotten this, but I've always been worried that I'm going to forget, is this little guy, which is the attachment that goes onto the mic stand, and your mic goes in this clip. It kind of clips onto the end. You can get some that screw on, but it doesn't fit in the box. I mean, I've never really tried putting it in the box, but there's foam inside, so it's really important that I always check that I have both of these. Next up we have this little guy, which actually connects to my guitar stand. I like to take it out because then I can lie this flat in my car. But it's really, really handy to have a guitar stand. I didn't have one for quite a long time when I was playing gigs, and it's just scary having to leave your guitar on the floor or put it back in the case, because people just don't look where they're walking, especially if you're playing in bars or things like that. So I highly recommend getting a guitar stand, and then also putting it way in the corner where no one's going to knock it over. Next up for me, we have my two main cables, which are these. So we have my jack for my guitar. I actually just invested in a little bit of more of an expensive cable that has like rope threading sort of, because I was actually going through cables quite quickly. I think I'm not the best at wrapping cables, and also just through wear and tear they were getting a bit broken, so I invested in one that was a little bit better, higher quality, so hopefully it lasts in the long run. And then this guy is my mic cable. As you can see, it's not wrapped up properly because I need to tidy this box up, but this is the cable that I use to connect my mic to my amp or my mixer or whatever I'm doing, so I always need to make sure I have at least these two. The next thing is a spare jack. So yesterday I used this to plug my amp to my mixer as like a fold back sort of / extra speaker. It's always important to have spare cables. So if I were a good musician, I'd probably have 3 of the cables I just showed you. So 3 jacks and 3 XLRs. But yeah, this is my spare / one that I use to connect my speaker to my mixer. If I'm not using a mixer, I will just plug my XLR and my jack straight into my Cube amp, which is what I use for when I'm busking. And like I said, it depends on what setup you're going to be using. Speaking of mixers, this is the mixer I have. I always keep it in the box so that it doesn't get bashed. It's not as big as it looks in the box. This is the mixer out of the box, and I also always keep the charger inside the box too so that they don't get separated. And that's another tip, is that if you are carrying anything that needs a power supply or batteries, every time you pack that thing, always make sure straight after that you have the charger, because it's super annoying when you don't have the plug to plug something like this in, because there's nothing you can do about it once you get to the gig. Before I finish up everything else that's left in the box, because there's little tidbits, I'm just going to go through things that are behind me. So here I have my Cube. This is the amp that I use for busking and for like small venues. But yesterday, for example, when I was playing at the Clyde, I plug into their house system because that means that my music is going all throughout the venue. But it honestly just depends. I actually want to invest in a little bit of a better PA system, because this, even though it's really, really great for those kind of portable things, I do definitely want to get a little bit of a better speaker option. But because I've been traveling so much, I haven't actually invested in a good option. However, this guy has definitely done me great, and it's really great for busking because it can be battery operated, but then when you want to plug into power, it's really good too. So with this, I can plug in my mic and my guitar, and then also if I take breaks, I can play music from my phone through it as well. And it has reverb and a sort of EQ on the inputs as well, which is good. Unfortunately, the mixer that I have does not have reverb on it, so that's a little bit of a downside for that. I've been considering getting some kind of reverb pedal or whatever, but you can definitely get mixers that have reverb built in. I also, in the box, like I mentioned before, always make sure that I have the cable that goes with the Street Cube, because like I said, it is battery powered, but obviously it's way better if you can just use actual power. Then next I have my mic stand, which is this guy here. It's packed down because I just got it out of the car, but I obviously always need to make sure I have my mic stand with me, and I have this attachment which I pretty much never take off unless I'm using someone else's mic stand, which is my iPad holder. So my tablet goes on here, and that's where I have my set list, and a lot of my songs I remember by heart / off the top of my head, but it's really nice to have the prompt there, especially because sometimes, especially having such a big list of songs that you can play, you forget the titles, and it's just nice to have them in front of you. Then over here I have my speaker stand that I use for my Cube, and like I said, I've just taken these out of the car so they're all packed down, but I like to lay those all on top of each other in the car, and they don't take up much space. It's super light, and it doesn't go up really high, but it kind of goes up to, I'd say, about head height when I'm standing. Then next up I have signs. So this one I think I also got from Kmart. I didn't actually realize how much I would use this until I used it at my first gig, and I realized how easy it is to see from far away. The white writing on the black background is really good, and it also means that, say for example, if people are taking pictures of you or videoing you for their Instagram story, they're probably going to get this in there, and it means that they can tag you, or other people can see what your name is without you having to say it between every single song. I also have this little guy, which I got from Typo. Both of them have letters that you can switch in and out, so you can change the message. So for example, sometimes if I'm playing a wedding, I will say congratulations or something on here, and it's really nice that you can tailor it. So say for example, if you were selling CDs or if you had a new single or something coming out, you could advertise it on here. And this one's really good because it lights up, so if you're playing a gig in the evening or whatever, you can turn it on and people can see you. What I'll do is I'll often put business cards in front of one of my signs, so that people actually come up to take a closer look. They'll be able to grab one of my business cards and go on my social media, and also get in touch with me if they wanted me to play a gig for them. Next up is an aux cable. This one's the one from my car, and this is just handy to have in case you need to take a break and you don't want it to be complete silence, because I can plug my music from my phone or my tablet into my amp, and it's just very handy to have. Spare things are your friend, so you don't want to be carrying around heaps of stuff, but it's definitely good to have backups. So I actually forgot that in the bottom of my box I have a spare capo, because capos are notorious for going missing. They're very easy to lose, and also, as much as I can transpose things, it's annoying if you forget your capo, because then you have to play things in keys that you don't really want to. So it's very good to have a spare one of these. Next up, I have a box that's all squashed actually, but luckily the cards inside aren't, and it's a box of my business cards. I actually got these printed at Vistaprint, and they've lasted me for ages. I actually have some more updated ones that I left in the UK with a more updated picture. But they're really handy to have, because the amount of times that I get people either asking me to play a gig somewhere, or if they're just curious to check out my music, then it's really good to have, because it means that rather than getting them to write things down, or if they don't have data on their phone or something, they can't look you up, they'll remember you for later. And also it just means that they're probably going to be more invested because they'll have your card. And next up is batteries. So I have spare ones for my guitar, which are the 9 volt. Annoyingly, and I haven't gotten to the root cause of why, some 9 volt batteries don't fit in my guitar. It's like the casing on the outside is too thick. So hopefully I'll get to the bottom of that soon. It might be like slightly different case sizing, because this one says 9V2, so I need to do a little bit of research. If you know, leave it down below. It is super annoying when your guitar dies on you in the middle of a song and you have to do a quick changeover in batteries, and the worst is when you realize you don't have one. I have done that before, and you pretty much just have to play unplugged at that point. So don't forget to buy spare batteries for your guitar, and just, I would recommend having some in your box, some in your guitar, and don't confuse the ones that you've used versus new ones, because I've also done that and put a dead battery back into my guitar. The next batteries I have are these AA batteries, and those go into my Cube amp. They're a pretty standard battery, so they're really easy to find. Like I said, I would recommend finding rechargeable ones, but I left my battery charger in the UK, so I'm probably going to have to repurchase some rechargeable batteries. But for now, these guys are sitting in the bottom of my box as a backup. Next, I have a random old E string that I must have broken mid-gig, which actually reminds me, I haven't shown you what I keep in my guitar, which is pretty important. So one of the things that I keep is spare strings, because I never really used to change the strings on my guitar until I started gigging regularly, and I realized how quickly they wear down. So I definitely try and change them on a regular basis, but you need to be able to do a quick change of strings in the middle of a gig, so that's probably why this is lying in there. So yeah, this is my guitar, and luckily this case can actually go on your back like a backpack, so that definitely helps for when I'm unloading my car and I can get my gear in quickly. So normally I put my guitar on my back and then I carry the box in. So I actually have 2 packs of spare strings, because I believe I've already opened this one and used the low E. It's better practice probably to change all of them at once, but I know I did this mid-gig, so I only did the one. The ones that I use are the Elixir. I think I've changed size recently. Currently I'm using the 1353. I got a spare pack so that if I do break my low E string again, then I have another one. I actually have broken my low E string 3 times mid-gig. in the last year probably, because my playing style has slightly changed when I play live, and I do a lot of hammering on the low E string and it just can't handle it after a while. So definitely bring spare strings. And speaking of strings, I have a string winder here. Obviously you can replace strings without one of these, but if you're trying to do it quickly, this is great, and it also helps get the little stopper at the end out, rather than having to use keys or something, which I actually often have to use to get the battery out of the bottom. You don't want to damage your guitar, so definitely make sure that you pack one of these with strings. And then there are actually one more set of batteries that I take, and those are the batteries for my guitar tuner. But also, same thing, is you don't want your tuner to die on you mid-gig when you're trying to retune up between sets. So I carry a lot of these, as you can see. Then in here, I also have my iPad. I keep it in this sleeve so that it doesn't get damaged. I actually have smashed my iPad screen before being in my box. I didn't drop it or anything, but I think something pressed on the top of it and cracked it right down the middle. If you've been watching my vlogs for a while, I'm pretty sure I showed you the damage that it did. Okay, there's only a couple more things. I have some spare cables. I actually need to invest in better cables that match the new threading. They didn't have any XLRs of this type when I went into my local rock shop, but I am planning on purchasing some better quality cables. One thing I really like about this one is that it has a tie that keeps it wrapped up. So I think that's what I need to start doing with my other cables so that they don't come loose. I actually have done that with these spare cables. I've put a ribbon around them to keep them organized. So I just have a bunch of XLRs slash jacks to XLRs because those are the only cables that I had. So I just made sure that I had spares in here in case any of them died on me. As you can see, they could probably do with some organization. I actually did go through once and test that all of them worked. And then I remember going to a gig that weekend, and the one that I had determined worked started not working on me. It was one of those situations where if you have it in one position, the signal comes through and then you slightly move it and it doesn't. So cables can be a tricky thing, and that's why I definitely think it's important to invest in better cables. And also to make sure that you get ones that are long enough, because this one, I actually don't know how many feet it is, but I probably could have done with getting a longer one, but I know I'll probably invest in a spare one eventually, so I would say probably go longer rather than shorter. And we're down to the last thing in the box, which is a screwdriver. So I have this in my case so that I can replace the batteries in my Cube amp if I need to. Again, this is a really annoying thing to forget, because if this runs out of batteries and you can't get in there, you're not gonna have any power. So I think that's everything that I tend to bring along with me. Obviously, like I said, it depends on what kind of gig you're playing, but those are just the standards, and I try to always leave them in the same place in my house, in the same box, and whenever I take something out, I put it straight back, because it is the worst when you get somewhere and you think that you put something in your box or in your gear setup and you didn't. I definitely say there's like groups of things in my mind that I try and remember. Like I said, if I have something that needs power, I always pair it with its power supply. Same for like instruments, guitar, power supply, or strings, the tool to put it in. So if you've got batteries, then you need the tool to make sure you can put the batteries in. I've actually been meaning to do this for a while, but I think I'm gonna make a list of all of the gear that I tend to bring, and then you can always cross things out when you know that you're not gonna need them for that venue. But I'll put it down below in the description box, and then you can use that as like a downloadable file or something if you're just starting to gig, or you do gig but you tend to forget things. I hope this was helpful or interesting. I know that it was quite long and it's probably gonna make this vlog really long, but it's kind of good to just go over everything, and it also is an excuse for me to organize myself. Now my legs are dead from kneeling on the ground, so I'm gonna go.